The iconic Alfred Hitchcock film, The Birds, released in 1963, is a masterpiece of suspense, but behind its chilling portrayal of airborne terror lies a production fraught with unprecedented challenges and ethical quandaries. While audiences were captivated by the seemingly impossible feat of orchestrating thousands of birds to attack, the reality of bringing this vision to life was a far cry from the seamless cinematic experience. This documentary delves into the production nightmare of The Birds, exposing the dirty secrets and unconventional methods employed to create one of cinema's most unforgettable thrillers. We will explore the extreme measures taken, the toll on both human and animal participants, and the controversies that simmered beneath the surface of this groundbreaking film. The question remains, what was the true cost of bringing nature's wrath to the silver screen? The year is 1963. Hollywood, a city built on dreams and illusions, was about to witness the release of a film that would forever alter the landscape of cinematic horror, Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. While the film itself would become an instant classic, lauded for its innovative terror and unsettling realism, the journey from script to screen was anything but smooth. It was a production characterized by ambition, controversy, and a profound disregard for the well-being of its feathered performers, a narrative obscured by the dazzling spectacle of flying predators. At the helm of this ambitious project was Alfred Hitchcock, the master of suspense, a filmmaker renowned for his meticulous control and his fascination with the darker aspects of the human psyche. Hitchcock, ever the innovator, was captivated by Daphne du Maurier's 1952 short story of the same name, which depicted a town besieged by flocks of birds. He envisioned translating this unsettling premise to the silver screen, eschewing traditional monster tropes for a more primal, naturalistic form of terror. His vision was not merely to depict violence but to evoke a visceral, primal fear, tapping into a deep-seated human anxiety about the natural world turning against us. The challenge, however, lay in the sheer scale of Hitchcock's ambition. Unlike previous cinematic portrayals of animal behavior, The Birds demanded an unprecedented level of control and coordination. The script called for thousands of birds to attack in coordinated waves, a feat that seemed almost impossible to achieve reliably on a film set. This necessity for realism would drive the production down a path of increasingly unconventional and, as history would reveal, ethically dubious practices. Central to this endeavor were the key creative forces. Alma Reville, Hitchcock's wife and longtime collaborator, played a crucial role in script development and likely offered counsel on the more challenging aspects of the production. Tippi Hedren, a relatively unknown model handpicked by Hitchcock, was cast in the pivotal role of Melanie Daniels. Her performance, which would catapult her to stardom, was forged in the crucible of an intensely demanding and often harrowing filming process. Rod Taylor, playing Mitch Brenner, and Jessica Tandy, as his mother Lydia, also formed the core human element against which the avian onslaught would be unleashed. The pre-production phase was dominated by the daunting task of figuring out how to make the birds behave as Hitchcock envisioned. The initial approach involved training individual birds, a labor-intensive and largely fruitless endeavor. However, the sheer volume of birds required for the film quickly made this impractical. The script demanded thousands of birds, not just a few trained actors. This logistical hurdle, coupled with Hitchcock's unwavering commitment to realism, set the stage for the more extreme measures that would define the film's production. The choice of bird species also presented a significant challenge. Hitchcock opted for common coastal birds like seagulls and crows, species readily available but notoriously difficult to control. The script's escalating bird attacks, from isolated incidents to mass assaults, required a visual representation that could only be achieved through a combination of trained birds, mechanical trickery, and, controversially, real birds subjected to harsh conditions. The decision to use live birds in such quantities, and to encourage their aggressive behavior for the sake of cinematic effect, was a foreshadowing of the ethical storm that would later gather around the production. Before the cameras even began rolling on the iconic scenes of avian chaos, a foundation of immense logistical planning and a growing acceptance of unconventional methods were already in place. The creative team, driven by Hitchcock's singular vision, was preparing to push the boundaries of filmmaking, unaware of the true cost that would be exacted in the relentless pursuit of cinematic perfection. The stage was set for a production that would not only redefine horror on screen but also expose the often unseen sacrifices made in the name of art. The production of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds was a monumental undertaking, fraught with challenges that pushed the boundaries of filmmaking and, as it would later emerge, ethical considerations. Hitchcock's ambition was to depict nature's fury unleashed upon unsuspecting humanity, a concept that demanded a level of realism previously unseen in cinema. This pursuit of authenticity, however, led the production down a path paved with innovative techniques, immense logistical hurdles, and, controversially, the treatment of live animals. The initial stages of pre-production were consumed by the monumental task of translating Hitchcock's vision onto the screen. The script, famously based on Daphne du Maurier's short story, called for swarms of birds, not just a few trained performers. This immediately presented a significant logistical problem: how to gather, control, and direct thousands of live birds to act in a manner that mimicked genuine aggression. Early attempts at training individual birds proved largely impractical. The sheer volume required for the scenes, particularly the climactic attacks, made mass training an unfeasible option. The script's escalating nature, from isolated incidents to overwhelming assaults, necessitated a multifaceted approach that would blend trained birds, animatronics, and, crucially, large numbers of untrained live birds. The choice of bird species itself was not arbitrary. Hitchcock and his team opted for common coastal birds such as seagulls and crows. These species were readily available along the California coast, where much of the filming took place, but they were also notoriously unpredictable and difficult to manage. Their natural behaviors, while sometimes aggressive, were not easily manipulated for dramatic effect. The script demanded that these birds initiate attacks, peck relentlessly, and swarm in a coordinated fashion that suggested a deliberate, malevolent intent. Achieving this on camera required a delicate, and at times, ethically questionable balance. The production's reliance on real birds led to the development of some rather unorthodox methods for encouraging the desired behavior. One of the most striking examples involved the use of live birds that were, in essence, confined and provoked. For the scene where Melanie Daniels is attacked in the attic, a truly harrowing sequence, hundreds of live crows and blackbirds were reportedly used. To keep them in place and agitated, the birds were allegedly placed in a confined space with Melanie, and a system of pulleys and strings was employed to make them flap and peck. This method, while undeniably effective in creating a visceral sense of terror on screen, raised significant concerns about animal welfare. Reports from the set describe the birds becoming distressed and injured during these prolonged and intense filming sessions. Another key aspect of the production involved the development of sophisticated mechanical birds and special effects. For scenes requiring sustained aerial attacks or large formations of birds, animatronic models were constructed. These were often suspended by wires and manipulated by the crew to create the illusion of mass movement. The iconic shot of the seagulls attacking the car was achieved through a combination of live birds perched on the vehicle and mechanical models flying around it. Similarly, the climactic sequence at the Brenner house, where birds relentlessly batter the doors and windows, utilized a blend of live birds, wire-controlled models, and strategically placed sound effects to amplify the sense of chaos and dread. The filming process was characterized by its immense difficulty and the dedication of the cast and crew. Tippi Hedren, in particular, endured a grueling ordeal. Hitchcock, known for his meticulous control, subjected Hedren to increasingly demanding and dangerous scenes. The attic scene, which lasted for several days, was particularly traumatic. Hedren was reportedly pecked and scratched by the real birds used in the sequence, leading to physical and emotional exhaustion. Her contract with Hitchcock was structured in a way that gave him significant control over her career, and she later spoke of feeling trapped and exploited during the production of The Birds. Rod Taylor, who played Mitch Brenner, also recounted the challenges. He described the immense effort involved in coordinating the mechanical birds and the sheer volume of real birds that had to be managed. The scale of the operation was unprecedented, requiring a dedicated team of animal handlers, technicians, and special effects artists working in tandem. The constant presence of live birds, some of which were agitated or injured, created a tense atmosphere on set. One of the turning points in the production's approach came with the realization that training was insufficient for the scale of the attacks required. The script's escalating nature meant that the birds needed to appear increasingly organized and aggressive. This led to the controversial decision to use methods that would incite the birds. While the exact extent of these methods remains a subject of discussion and interpretation, accounts from the set suggest that the birds were often confined in small spaces and subjected to stimuli that would agitate them. This approach, while yielding dramatic results, was a clear departure from conventional animal training and marked a significant ethical compromise. The visual effects supervisor, Iwerks, was instrumental in developing many of the mechanical and special effects that were crucial to the film's success. His ingenuity in creating realistic animatronic birds and his mastery of wirework and puppetry allowed Hitchcock to achieve the overwhelming avian assaults that defined the film. However, even with these advancements, the use of real birds remained a central element, and the challenges associated with their management were a constant concern. The narrative of the birds is punctuated by a series of increasingly violent and inexplicable bird attacks. The production had to meticulously plan each sequence to ensure that the escalating threat was believable. The initial attacks, such as the seagull attacking Melanie on the boat, were relatively contained. However, as the film progresses, the scale and ferocity of the bird assaults grow exponentially, culminating in the prolonged siege of the Brenner farmhouse. Each of these sequences required a unique combination of practical effects, mechanical birds, and live birds, all orchestrated to create a terrifying spectacle. The sheer logistical complexity of managing hundreds, if not thousands, of live birds on a film set cannot be overstated. The birds had to be fed, housed, and transported. Their well-being, or lack thereof, became an unavoidable byproduct of the production's demands. Reports of birds suffering from exhaustion, injury, and distress were recurrent. The conditions under which they were filmed, particularly in enclosed spaces for extended periods, were inherently stressful for the animals. Hitchcock's relentless pursuit of cinematic perfection often overshadowed concerns for the welfare of the animals involved. His directorial style was known for its exacting standards, and he was not known for being overly sentimental. The narrative of the birds was about nature's indifferent and terrifying power, and it seems Hitchcock was willing to go to extreme lengths to convey that message. The ethical questions surrounding the production, while perhaps not fully appreciated at the time by all involved, would later come to define a significant part of the film's legacy, casting a shadow over its technical achievements. The production of the birds stands as a stark reminder of the immense creative and ethical compromises that can occur in the relentless pursuit of cinematic art. The production of Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds presented a complex tapestry of cinematic innovation and ethical controversy. The film's groundbreaking portrayal of nature's terrifying power, unleashed through swarms of avian attackers, was achieved through a combination of cutting-edge special effects and, critically, the use of thousands of live birds. This reliance on real animals, however, brought forth significant challenges and raised profound questions about animal welfare in filmmaking, a debate that continues to resonate today. The core of the production's difficulty lay in controlling and inciting the birds to perform the aggressive actions required by the script. Unlike traditional animal training, which emphasizes positive reinforcement, the demands of the birds necessitated methods that would provoke agitation. Accounts from the set suggest that birds were often confined to cramped spaces and exposed to stimuli designed to incite them, a stark departure from gentler training techniques. This approach, while yielding the chillingly realistic on-screen chaos, represented a significant ethical compromise in the pursuit of cinematic effect. Iwerks, the visual effects supervisor, played a pivotal role in bridging the gap between the unpredictable nature of live birds and Hitchcock's vision. His genius in developing mechanical birds and mastering wirework and puppetry allowed for the creation of overwhelming avian assaults. Yet, even with these technological advancements, the integration of live birds remained central, and their management was a constant source of concern. The sheer logistical undertaking of housing, feeding, and transporting thousands of birds, coupled with the inherent stress of filming conditions, inevitably led to reports of animal distress, exhaustion, and injury. The escalating narrative of the birds, from isolated incidents to the sustained siege of the Brenner farmhouse, demanded meticulous planning and execution. Each sequence required a unique blend of practical effects, mechanical birds, and live birds, all orchestrated to create a terrifying spectacle. The production's relentless pursuit of cinematic perfection, a hallmark of Hitchcock's directorial style, often appeared to overshadow considerations for the animal's well-being. While the film aimed to depict nature's indifferent and terrifying power, the means by which this message was conveyed have become a significant part of its legacy. The ethical implications of the Bird's production are undeniable. The methods employed, though perhaps not fully scrutinized by all at the time, highlight a crucial tension between artistic ambition and the responsibility towards living creatures. The film stands as a stark reminder of the immense creative and ethical compromises that can arise in the relentless pursuit of cinematic art. The controversy surrounding the treatment of the birds fuels ongoing discussions about the responsibilities of filmmakers and the evolving standards of animal welfare in the industry, ensuring that the dirty secrets of this iconic production continue to matter. The production of the Birds stands as a stark case study in the complex ethical landscape of filmmaking, particularly concerning the use of live animals. Research reveals that the groundbreaking realism achieved in the film was heavily reliant on the direct involvement of thousands of birds, a decision that led to significant production challenges and raised profound questions about animal welfare. Unlike conventional training methods that prioritize positive reinforcement, the script's demands for aggressive avian behavior necessitated techniques that provoked agitation. Accounts from the set detail the confinement of birds in cramped conditions and exposure to stimuli designed to incite them, a departure from gentler approaches. While visionary effects supervisor of iWorks innovated with mechanical birds and wirework to supplement the live action, the integration of real animals remained central. This reliance presented immense logistical hurdles, including housing, feeding, and transporting vast numbers of birds, all while subjecting them to the inherent stresses of a film set. Reports of animal distress, exhaustion, and injury became a recurring theme, underscoring a perceived overshadowing of animal well-being by the pursuit of cinematic perfection. The ethical implications of these methods are undeniable and continue to resonate. The production highlights a persistent tension between artistic ambition and the responsibility owed to living creatures. Although the film successfully depicted nature's terrifying power, the means employed remain a critical part of its legacy. The controversy surrounding the treatment of the birds fuels ongoing discussions about filmmakers' responsibilities and the evolving standards of animal welfare within the industry. The enduring impact of the birds lies not only in its cinematic innovation but also in its potent reminder of the significant ethical compromises that can be made in the relentless pursuit of art.